Boom. Unearthed Arcana. So, they released this Arcana just, I think it was either yesterday or earlier this week. It's called the Mages of Strixhaven. So, that immediately means this is Magic the Gathering. So, I'm not a Magic the Gathering guy, but I do recognize Strixhaven because that's the newest set in, I believe that's the newest set in Magic the Gathering that just went live a couple weeks ago. So they're doing a lot of like cross, kind of like, yeah, they're doing a lot of cross media stuff with Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and they're kind of like they're almost becoming. I'm not gonna say they're becoming one thing, but they are kind of. I mean, they're both from the same company, and it's the biggest products that they have. So it makes sense that they're gonna try to use one to promote the other, and try to get people who play D&D to play Magic, and people who play Magic to play D&D. It makes sense. Where it doesn't make sense, I will get to, and that is narratively and story based, which is what I kind of am struggling with here with this particular Unearthed Arcana, because if you watch my streams. I've been running most of my stuff in the Forgotten Realms, so when it comes to Arcana or Unearthed Arcana or things that they release, Wizards is really good about releasing their stuff, and it's kind of the setting agnostic, where you can just take it and plug it in and you're fine. This one, I think you're going to have a little bit harder time plugging and playing this stuff right into, let's say, if you're running an Eberron campaign, or if you're running Forgotten Realms, or you're running anything that's not the Magic the Gathering setting. There's some work you're going to have to do as a DM, and I'm wondering, since this is just a UA, I'm not passing my judgment on these subclasses right now 100%, because I know they're going to change, and maybe they will solve this with a couple little blurbs of text or things for each one. Or maybe even for the running, maybe it'll just be like running Strixhaven in the Forgotten Realms, and there's suggestions and stuff. They really need to do that, because I'm not going to run a Strixhaven Dungeons and Dragons game, and my players don't necessarily even want to run that. So, but they might want to run some of these subclasses. So we're going to have to kind of solve that problem, I think. At least Wizards of the Coast does. It's not my job to do it. If they don't do it, I'm going to be upset, because that's just a lot more work for DMs. I might actually not allow these subclasses if Wizards of the Coast doesn't do some of that work for me, because it's too much work. So the colleges of Strixhaven, I'm not super familiar with. So we have the Lorehold, the Prismari, the Quandrix, the Silverquill, and the Witherbloom colleges. So if you read these, and if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, you might be able to. I'm assuming these are all associated with different either color combinations in the Magic the Gathering setting, or different colors entirely. So, like, Witherbloom sounds like green and black if I just read it. Like, there just might be things. I don't know, I haven't looked it up. But let's just get into the subclasses. So the thing that's really neat about these subclasses that they're trying is they are cross-class subclasses. It's the first time they've released anything like this. It's the first I've actually ever even heard of this concept. I don't know if there's any homebrew out there that tries to do this. There might be, but I haven't come across it. But so the idea is that these are subclasses you're going to be able to take with multiple different classes. So, for example, we're going to just start right off the bat with this Mage of Lorehold. This is a Bard, Warlock, and Wizard subclass. So that means if you're running Bard, Wizard, or Warlock, instead of your normal subclass that you can take, which would be a college for Bard, for Warlock it would be a patron, and the Wizard subclass would be... I forgot what Wizard subclasses are. They're usually just the magic schools, right? Well, regardless. They can take this instead, the Lorehold. So... well, I'm going to go through just kind of cursory over all these. I read all of the Lorehold. Like, this class seems overpowered, but I like it, and I would like to try it. I haven't gone through all of these, but if they're equally as well thought out with new mechanics and new interesting things to do, like, I want these subclasses. The problem is how do I fit the mage, or how do I fit the College of Lorehold as a whole inside the Forgotten Realms? Also, my other question is that they don't even cover here is if you're a warlock, who's your patron if you're part of the College of Lorehold, or the Lorehold College? So those are like questions that I want answered, and I'm hoping they will in the Strixhaven book that they've announced that they're going to release. That obviously these are a part of. Like, these are obviously going to be in it. Also, I have some other things that we're going to go over another UA later about the Fae. There's some things I think in that UA that's actually going to appear in Strixhaven. So, maybe it'll appear in both, but... So, let's just go over the Lorehold. So, level 1, you get, here's your class, basically your Lorehold spells. So, these are the spells you don't have to prepare, and you just get automatically for the class. So, if you're a Bard, Warlock, Wizard, boom, you get all these. At level 1, you get something called an Ancient Companion, which you can imbue with 3 different types of spirits. You can imbue it with a Healer Spirit, a Sage Spirit, or a Warrior Spirit. So, right off the bat, you have these 3 different abilities, and what's cool in this stat block, so this is the Ancient Companion you can summon. Ancient Companion you summon, it has to be you have to have a statue, like you basically bring a statue to life and imbue it with a spirit. So you find a statue, or maybe you just had one all along with you, like you could just start the game with one, I'd imagine. It drops to 0, gets destroyed. You can make a new one. It says every long or short rest. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. Like, if it's imbuing in a statue and the statue gets destroyed, would you have to find a new statue to build one of these things and imbue it with a spirit? It's not really clear. It's probably going to be something the DM has to consider. But, so it's a construct. AC 14, and then if you're it has these little caveats here, which make the stat block a little messy, but warrior only. So that means if you take the warrior spirit, he's got a little bit higher AC. So you go through here, it's anywhere where it says plus PB, that's your proficiency bonus. So things like your con goes up, the creature's con. So every level, every time your proficiency bonus goes up, you kind of got to recalculate the stats of this guy, which is fine. They don't give it a CR because it basically grows as you level. It doesn't make sense to give them a CR. So Ancient Fortitude, this just makes it's kind of like it's the similar thing to Zombie, where if a zombie gets down to 0 life, it can make a con save to just not die. That's the same thing that's going on here. I think the DC is different though, it's 5 plus the damage taken, which might be the same for Zombie, or Zombie is half the damage taken. I don't exactly remember, but it's the same concept. Then, if you pick the Sage Spirit, you get another thing called Sage's Counsel, and you can give your allies bonuses to intelligence and wisdom checks. I'm thinking that also includes any skills that involve intelligence and wisdom, but not saving throws. So that's pretty neat. This is almost like the Sage seems to be like the role-playing companion. Like, if you're going to go in town and do some things walking around town talking to people, maybe you take a short rest, you summon the Sage Spirit to go inside your statue, and you have the Sage counsel you as you do your RP stuff. Then you got Spirit Strike, which is 1d8 plus 2 plus proficiency bonus for damage. It's pretty neat. It's melee. He only gets 1. Healer's Light is healer only, so if you take the Healer Spirit and imbue it here, so the healer doesn't actually heal, just gives temporary hit points. So, a little kind of a misnomer. I think if they made it weaker, but made it actually heal, might be better. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, temporary hit points is kind of like healing. It's like if you're in battle and you get 1d8 hit points, it just kind of heals you temporarily 1d8 hit points. And then for Warrior, you get a reaction, which is actually kind of cool. So when a creature within 5 feet of the companion, so any creature, makes a strength or dexterity saving throw, the companion can impose itself between the creature and the danger. So this means any friend. It says any creature. So, but I don't know why you'd want to do this for an enemy creature. But you basically, it just adds a d4 to the saving throw. Now, like this is kind of thematic where it says the creature, where what does it say? Imposes itself between the creature and danger. So the thing that I think they should do though, and this is what I'm thinking, is if it imposes it should add a d4 to the whoever he's covering, and I think it would be neat if it then just subtracted the roll for it, because for a strength or dexterity saving throw. So, like, you could imagine in, like, a dragon fire, the warrior protection covers your ally and to protect them. But, like, there's no penalty for it, so it's just, like, giving a d4. So I feel like, thematically, though, like, he should take some of the damage, but really it's just increasing his chance to take the damage. I don't know. I think I'm a fan of having upsides and downsides. And especially since it makes more thematic sense, maybe bump this up and do that, but whatever, I'm just critiquing it. So level 6, your spirits give you another extra bonus, depending on which one you have out. So if you have your healer out, you get maximum hit points increase equal to your level. When you regain the hit points from a spell, you regain an additional 1d8 hit points. So this makes you easier to heal, and you have higher hit points. Sage, you get advantage on ability checks using Arcana, History, Nature, and Religion. So this is specifically the skills, while this one is specifically the different stats. So, like I said, this again kind of goes on the notion that this is the role-playing spirit you want out with you while you're making potentially those checks. And then you can also deal damage to a creature. If you deal damage with a creature for a leveled spell, you can do an additional d8 damage. Then the warrior, whenever you cast a cantrip, you get to make a weapon attack as part of that action. This I've been already kind of theory crafting some neat things with. For example, Green Flame Blade. Part of the attack with the Green Flame Blade is you get to make a weapon attack, but it's a cantrip. So you can then add if you use Green Flame Blade with this warrior out, you can then make a second attack with the weapon, and then do an additional 1d8 radiant damage. So that's kind of neat. The thing is, though, is most cantrips are actions, so this won't work if you're gonna take a subclass, I guess this subclass. This is a subclass, so it doesn't matter about other subclasses. So never mind. I don't know what I was thinking. There might be if you're like a warlock, hexblade warlock. Right? Yeah. And you take the Eldritch Invocation that allows you to make a second weapon attack. You wouldn't be able to really do that with this. This wouldn't give you a third. So, but what makes up for that is that extra 1d8 radiant damage. So, I'm wondering what. I mean, they just straight up pick radiant damage, which I guess is fine. Well, I mean, this is kind of a healer-ish support class. Like, all these spells are very... Well, they're kind of all over the place, really. Destructive Wave. I am actually not familiar with this spell. So, and then we have these War Echoes, which is another kind of neat thing, another new mechanic, where when a creature you see is attacked, or a target of an attack roll, you can actually force them to make a saving throw, and they become vulnerable to that type of damage. So it's kind of neat that you can start, like, tweaking, like, oh, somebody's going to do a really big lightning attack, and you want to make sure that lightning attack hits really good, so you make them vulnerable, and now all of a sudden a lightning bolt does double damage. Like, that's very powerful. And then I don't think there's a limit on how many times you can do this. It's just your reaction. So you can do this every turn, I think. Oh, it's once per turn. Oh, it's once per turn. When a creature you see makes an attack, is it not even a reaction? Oh, use your reaction. There you go. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, that seems really powerful. And you can do this. Okay, so it is limited to your proficiency bonus. Okay, I don't think I read this paragraph last time I read through it. You get it back on a long rest. No biggie. And then these history's whims are kind of more passive buffs. You get to make saving throws against spells that deal damage to you with an extra d6 on the roll. You get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Or the swiftness is really neat. It gives you an increased speed by 15 feet, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks. So it's very like mobile. So, and these are always available to you as a bonus action. But you can only benefit this. Yeah, so you can only benefit from it for a minute, and you can't use it again for a long rest. Oh, this is neat. You can recharge it though with a spell slot of 4th level or higher. So that's kind of a neat. That's again, these are like this is all full of new ideas. And I'm really excited to try some of this stuff out. So the problems I think I already touched on was narratively, how do I fit the Mage of Lorehold in existing Dungeons and Dragons, and how existing well, I say existing Dungeons and Dragons. I play in the Forgotten Realms. So how do you fit it into Forgotten Realms? So I think it would be kind of neat to maybe give these colleges, maybe assign them to different real colleges in Dungeons and Dragons lore, and then you could easily just swap out things like main NPCs, other stuff like that. The idea I have for solving the problem where if it's a warlock, who's the warlock's patron with the Mage of Lorehold, it could be their teacher, or it could be maybe the headmaster of the school, or something like that. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with what Strixhaven is, and I've been talking all day on Discord to one of my friends who is more of a Magic the Gathering guy. So, and he was telling me I think they're all of them are headed by dragons. So that's kind of cool. So maybe you pick a dragon that is your patron now. So like I said, each one's different though. So that one was, what was it? It was Warlock, Wizard, and Bard. The next one, the Mage of Prismari, is Druid, Sorcerer, Wizard. So this says elemental energy to express how they see the world. Magic and motion are one and the same. They use creativity. So this sounds like you're kind of like pew-pew damage dealing subclass. That's kind of what this sounds like. And Boreal Sweep and lots of different elements. It's very elemental. I haven't read through this again, so I'm just going to scan over these real quick and then we can go on because I got a lot to cover. The Mage of Quandrix, Sorcerer and Wizard only. So what does it say? Them natural phenomenon, 4 numerical components. So it's yeah, this is the mathematical one. I wonder how they're gonna do things like diminishing functions. So a lot of mathematical terms. It's kind of cool. Velocity shift, null equation. Is this something that's like a? You say your enemies would actually reduce their might. Okay, you do really good. You do math really hard, and you confuse your opponents. Alright, so we have the Mage of Silverquill, that's Bard, Warlock, Wizard. They use words, so this is your charismatic class, and I love being the face in parties. I always pick a high charisma class. I like Warlocks, I like Bards, I like Paladins. So this would be a subclass that I would probably be interested in looking at. Elegant Apprentice, Silvery Barbs, Inky Shroud, Infusion of Eloquence, and a Word of Power. Ooh, I like that. Deadly Despair. And Selfless Invocation. And then we have Mage of Witherbloom, I think is the last one. Druid and Warlock. This seems like a kind of dark forest subclass where it's called Witherbloom, so I'm just thinking evil plants. So I could be wrong. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Magic the Gathering guy, but that's what it reads like to me. So, I mean, we got Vampire. We got some mix of Necrotic and Life Energy. Then Life Power. So that's very cool. So, yeah. So my big problem with the Strixhaven is how would it fit in the Forgotten Realms lore? How would a DM like me easily bring this into my existing Forgotten Realms things without like busting my ass rewriting a lot of this crap. I guess it wouldn't be too big a deal unless like multiple players pull them in. Because if only one of my players decides to go Strixhaven, or not Strixhaven, Lorehold, I can just make up the school, slap it in somewhere, done. Give a name, and then write a name of an NPC that is the head of there, or who he answers to there, and then make it up as we go. I guess it's not that big of a deal, but for in my head, I feel like if you want to put these in your game, you're gonna want to have all 5 colleges. So, like, to me, like, fitting all 5 in the world would make sense, because they would be like, well, I'm guessing Strixhaven. Okay, is Strixhaven so that a world, or is that the name of like a city? I'm not exactly sure. Let's see, Strixhaven. Like, let's just go to like a wiki. Here, that says Mages of. That's not what I want. Strixhaven, School of Mages, the Magic the Gathering wiki. Alright, Strixhaven, School of Mages, 87th Magic expansion, blah blah blah, released in April 2021. Storyline, there we go. Strixhaven is the most elite university in the multiverse. 5 colleges battle it out. Several planeswalkers, each with their own motivations. So, it's a single school? Are we talking like Strixhaven is Magic the Gathering, Harry Potter? Do I have to wear a hat and it'll put me in a school? Alright. So, Strixhaven is the name of a school. And then the colleges are the different sections or departments of that school. Alright. So maybe that's not too bad. You just have to come up with one school. But then again, like, you have to rename these. I guess you could just slap them in, but I just don't like that. It feels dirty. So there was my one concern that I had where I was like, alright, we have 3 Magic the Gathering books in Dungeons & Dragons now. What are they doing? So, as somebody who runs Forgotten Realms, loves the Forgotten Realms. I also like Eberron. I like a lot of the... But I like, Magic the Gathering doesn't excite me. It doesn't, like, the world. I know there's a lot of lore. I know some of it's probably pretty good. But I don't play the card game. There's, like, it's just... It doesn't appeal to me. So my worry is, alright, what are we doing here? Are we, like... they're not going to just, like... It's not going to just be one IP at one point. Hey, Johnny! Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so... My worry is they're going to try to marry them a little bit more intimately, especially maybe going forward with the 6th edition. So... And what I mean by that is, Forgotten Realms hasn't been the only world or main, like, realm that was part of the Dungeons & Dragons. It started with Greyhawk setting, I think in the 1st and 2nd edition. And then around, Forgotten Realms started to become a thing during the 2nd edition, and then it became the main Dungeons & Dragons world in 3rd edition. So, we have precedent for them changing what world they focus the game of Dungeons & Dragons on. Don't threaten me. I know where you live. So, what if they're gearing this up to make a switch that Dungeons & Dragons, like, becomes the Magic the Gathering, like, role-playing game? Like, that's my thought process and slight worry. This Twitter thread kind of says they're going to talk about this more. So, the Adventures of the preview season, which is what they're calling, like, the next couple weeks of them releasing announcements and things. They're talking about the crossover and why they put specific cards in the Magic the Gathering game as part of their D&D set that are planeswalkers, which are, like, powerful cards that represent some of the most powerful creatures in the Magic the Gathering setting. So they wanted to justify this by saying, this doesn't mean that these characters, like the One True Queen of Lolth, have a planeswalker spark, whatever that means. I'm guessing that's what makes a planeswalker a planeswalker. You won't be seeing Lolth traveling to Strixhaven to hang out with Witherbloom students anytime soon. Okay. It says for now we are. It says for now, which is the part I'm worried about. We still see the Forgotten Realms and the Magic Multiverse as separate entities, which we mentioned earlier this year about. So this this is just like. So obviously there are other people, there are probably Magic people worried about, oh my god, are we going to become a Dungeons & Dragons card game? And now I'm the opposite side where I'm like, oh my god, is Dungeons & Dragons going to become a Magic the Gathering role-playing game? So people are worried about this too, and so that's why they're addressing it. So right now they're saying they view them as two separate multiverses, which I guess means that when they write narratively the things, they're not going to have things from Dungeons & Dragons appear in Magic the Gathering lore, and they're not going to have Magic the Gathering things appear in Dungeons & Dragons lore. So, if they're going to keep them separate, that's my, like, how are they, like, how's this next book going to work with Strixhaven? How am I going to be able to use the Strixhaven colleges in my Forgotten Realms if I want to? So, like, they have to do a good job of being able to sell to both. Like, that's the thing that I'm worried that maybe they're gonna one day go, well, this isn't worth doing all this extra work for, so we're just gonna make Dungeons and Dragons one thing, and we're gonna pick the Magic the Gathering universe, and then we'll maybe release a Forgotten Realms supplement if you still want to play in that old world, which is fine. If that's the way the game goes, it's great. I'm probably gonna still be on board with it. I'll be sad, and then I'll have to read up about a bunch of Magic the Gathering crap, but so that was just a worry I had, and that's basically all I know about Strixhaven right now, or at least the UA, and then plus the book that's coming.